if the 2020 redistricting process didn't fail, I would be the city council person right now in the Bronx because the Bronx chose me. I won the Bronx numbers. My people showed out. But the Bronx is tied to East Harlem. Two communities with very different identities, different needs, and different priorities. And those lines shape the outcome of my race. So part of being a recovering candidate, which is what I call myself, isn't just about losing the race. It's about recovering from a system that wasn't designed for us to win. Hi, my name is Clarissa, and I'm a recovering candidate. Today marks 150 days since the primary election. 150 days since the campaign ended, since the adrenaline stopped, since I asked myself, who am I without this mission tied to my name? 150 days later, I'm still annoyed when I hear the word petition or canvas. If I find another palm card in my house, I'm going to tweak. But seriously, I mean, we talk about running, we talk about winning, we talk about losing, but we don't talk about the aftermath. We don't talk about the candidates that lose. We don't talk about what's life after that. The silence that hits differently, the stillness after months of nonstop motion, it's pure stillness. The emotional crash that sneaks up on you, the exhaustion that hits after the campaign. The body finally slows down, the mind finally catches its breath, and the feelings you ignored to stay focused during the campaign suddenly show up all at once. Everything just hits you all at once. And then comes the identity crash. The moment when you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, who am I now? This is why I call myself a recovering candidate. In the last 150 days, I've learned a lot. These 150 days have taught me things that I didn't anticipate. Grieving, I didn't even realize it. I spoke with another candidate this week, and we both recognized the emotional weight that we've been carrying. Then in therapy, hearing myself talk about the election out loud, I paused and I thought, wow, I really have big feelings about this. Because this wasn't just a race. It was a district split between East Harlem and the South Bronx. And in that split, I won home. I won the Bronx. But I lost the overall district. There's a specific kind of grief in winning your own community and still losing the seat. But I was proud of that. I'm not going to say that it was all grief at the moment when I lost. I was proud of winning the Bronx. I was proud of the numbers that came out and voted for me. I wasn't after the title. I wasn't chasing power. I was fighting for representation, for equity, for justice, for the Bronx to finally have someone who understands us from the inside. Losing didn't break me. It just forced me to sit with this grief, the disappointment, the weight of what could have been, the weight of what could have been. And while all of that is happening, life is happening as well. But being able to have this time to process the election, I'm grateful for, but I didn't know that this is what so many other candidates who have sacrificed everything and run for office and lost have gone through. There's a grieving process. And that's exactly what I've experienced. It hasn't all been bad. And I will say that probably the majority has been great. Feeling good now, 150 days later, I am at a point well, who am I? What do I want to do now? How do I continue to impact the world and impact my community? This past week, I had a great time. Family was here from Puerto Rico, and we went to the Museum of Natural History, which basically is a marathon pretending to be a museum because the amount of steps you get in that museum. Also, let me tell you, that museum's cafeteria is so expensive. We ate and I couldn't believe at the end, there was 3 of us and the total was like $75. It was insane. But anyway, we enjoyed that. I was able to deliver turkeys to our seniors in the community. I was part of Fresh Direct's distribution in partnership with City Harvest, who this week gave out close to 700 turkeys to the community. So shout out to them. I picked up turkeys and delivered them to seniors nearby who can't stand on the line, you know, have no way of getting there, aren't really as mobile. So I went in the community and delivered turkeys. As I was doing that, I had a realization. The campaigns end, elections end, but life and service, that continues. That doesn't stop. When you are doing the work in the community, you never really tap out. It's 24/7 round the clock. Whether you are an elected official, whether you are a community organizer, it is really hard to create a schedule for yourself because it's truly round the clock. You really have to take time out, carve out, some time to kind of pour into yourself. Service never ends, and while, managing that, I'm also supporting my mom. My aunt is spending her final days at Calvary Hospital here in the Bronx with terminal adrenal cancer. My mom came from Cuba, and her siblings came later in life. And now, they're aging in this country, not built for immigrant elders, far from their mom. My grandmother lives in Cuba, and she's unable to come, and they're unable to go there. And so the grief sits heavy in many immigrant families, quietly and privately. Daughters of immigrants carry two countries on our shoulders while also trying to lead, care, work, love, and survive. So when I'm saying I'm a recovering candidate, I'm also recovering my humanity, my presence, my family, my heart. A lot of those things. I was, in that conversation with a friend, it was the first time that we met. He was an amazing person, and I was sorry that his race didn't work out. But he was really cool and down to earth, and we experienced so much of the similar feelings of like, what now? And how do you navigate, not winning? What happens? Because it's radio silence. I, want to come back to not winning and why I strongly believe that the redistricting that failed in 2020 is the reason. Because if we were a separate district from East Harlem, then we would have representation in East Harlem and we would have representation in the Bronx. And that is what we need. In 2020, New York City had a chance to redraw the city council district, and the attempt to fix District 8 failed. The South Bronx and East Harlem were kept together, despite having different needs, cultures, histories, and priorities. If the map had been drawn fairly, the Bronx would have had Bronx-only representation right now. Someone focused on one borough, one community, and one set of issues. Next chance to fix this isn't until 2030. Every 10 years, when the census is done, you have an opportunity to revisit the redistricting process. We cannot enter 2030 unprepared again. We have to activate our communities. We have to educate and get people to understand how impactful and what this means for our communities. Before 2030, we must educate ourselves. We must attend hearings. You got to show up. We got to put the pressure on the commission. We got to organize our communities, demand fairness, and fight for the district lines that honor who we are. Representation starts with the map, and the Bronx deserves a map that reflects the Bronx. So gear up, get ready. We got to grind. We got to grind. I'm here. I'm recovering. I'm doing my thing, just a recovering candidate. And what that looks like is monitoring my sleep. I've been just making sure I'm getting good, adequate sleep, trying to be consistent in movement. I'm supporting my partner, supporting my mom, being present for family, rebuilding financially because I sacrificed it all. And when you run for office, that's another thing. Like people say, like it's expensive. It is brutally. If you are not wealthy, it is tough. It is tough. And so I'm building financially. I'm reconnecting with my creativity. So I'm podcasting. This brings me so much joy, just being able to connect with community in this way and just trying to breathe again. Don't get it twisted. Recovery doesn't mean I'm done. It means that I'm rebuilding. I'm rebuilding into the leader I was meant to be without a campaign defining me. If you ever poured your heart into something and it didn't go the way you hoped for, you're not done. You're not broken. You're just recovering. Recover gracefully, heal privately, and rise loudly. Thank you for tuning in to the Local is Global podcast, where every conversation starts local and reaches global. If this episode made you think, made you feel, or gave you something to take back to your block, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. And to every recovering candidate out there, welcome to the club. I'll see you next episode.